In 2019, a retired postal worker in Sudbury, Ontario, told his daughter he had stopped cooking supper. She asked why. He said by the time he stood up from his chair, walked to the kitchen, and thought about what to make, he was too tired to start. He was eating crackers and cheese most nights. She drove up the following weekend and taught him 5 meals from this list. He makes one of them every night now. He told her the trick was not the recipe. It was knowing that supper would be done before he had time to talk himself out of making it. Number 19 on this list takes 6 minutes. Number 8 uses 2 ingredients and a microwave. Number 1 has been made by more Canadian seniors than any other meal in the history of this country, and it is ready before the kettle boils. These 25 meals are not complicated. They are not fancy. They are designed for one thing: getting a hot meal on the table in 10 minutes or less for a person eating alone who almost did not bother. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 25 cheap Canadian 10-minute dinners for seniors living alone. Number 25. Canned soup with toast soldiers. A tin of soup heated in a pot for 4 minutes. 2 slices of toast cut into strips for dipping. That was dinner. It took less time to make than it takes to read this description. A tin of Campbell's cost $1. The bread cost pennies. Together they made a meal that was warm and filling and required nothing except a pot, a can opener, and the willingness to stand at the stove for the time it takes a song to play on the radio. For a senior whose energy ran out at 4 in the afternoon, this was the meal that said you do not need to be a cook tonight. You just need to be present for 4 minutes. Number 24. Fried egg on toast. 1 egg, 1 slice of bread. Butter in a pan. The egg cooked in 3 minutes. The toast took 2 minutes. Ketchup or salt and pepper on top. Eaten at the counter, at the table, or standing by the window watching the street. This was not a meal that anyone planned. It was the meal that happened when the plan failed, when the groceries did not get bought, when the chicken in the fridge did not get cooked, when the day slipped away, and suddenly it was 7 o'clock, and the kitchen was dark, and the only question was whether eating anything at all was worth the effort. 1 egg said, yes. Number 23. Peanut butter and banana on toast. Toast, peanut butter, a sliced banana. Assembled in 2 minutes, eaten in 5. The peanut butter gave it protein. The banana gave it potassium. The toast gave it something to hold. It was the meal that nutritionists would grudgingly approve of, and that every Canadian senior has made at least once, when the alternative was eating nothing. For a person living on a pension, a jar of peanut butter lasted weeks, and a bunch of bananas cost $1.50. That was 10 meals for the price of a fast food coffee. Number 22. Sardines on crackers with lemon. A tin of sardines opened and laid on soda crackers. A squeeze of lemon if there was one in the fridge. 2 minutes from cupboard to plate. No cooking required. The sardines were packed with protein, calcium, and omega-3. They cost $1.25 per tin. A sleeve of crackers cost $2 and lasted a week. For a senior with arthritis who could not grip a pot or stand long enough to use the stove, this was a meal that required nothing except a tin opener and a flat surface. Maritime seniors who had grown up on the coast ate this the way prairie seniors ate bread and butter. It was automatic. It was home. Number 21. Instant oatmeal with maple syrup. A packet of instant oatmeal, hot water from the kettle, a drizzle of maple syrup. 3 minutes. Eaten from the same mug it was made in. This was not breakfast. This was Tuesday night supper for a senior who had not eaten since noon and needed something warm before bed. The oatmeal filled the stomach. The maple syrup made it taste like someone had cared enough to add something sweet. Warm. A box of instant oatmeal cost $3 and contained 10 packets. That was 10 suppers for 30 cents each. Nobody calls oatmeal dinner. Seniors who eat it at 8 o'clock at night do not care what anyone calls it. They care that it is warm. Number 20. Craft dinner. 9 minutes from box to bowl. Every Canadian knows this. The water boils in 4 minutes. The pasta cooks in 5. The powder, the butter, and the milk stir in at the end. A box cost $1.25 and made 2 servings. For a senior living alone, that was Tuesday and Wednesday sorted. It was not nutritious. It was not traditional. It was the meal that the entire country defaulted to when the question of what to eat had no better answer. Seniors who had raised children on craft dinner did not stop making it when the children left. They just made half a box instead of a full one and ate it in the quiet. Number 19. Tomato soup with a grilled cheese. A tin of tomato soup heated in a pot. A grilled cheese made in a pan beside it. 6 minutes total. The soup and the sandwich arrive at the same time if you start the soup first and then the sandwich. This was the most perfect 10-minute meal in Canadian history. The soup was warm and tangy. The sandwich was crisp and salty, and the cheese pulled in strings when you tore it apart. It cost about $2.50. It fed one person completely. Diner counters across the country serve this combination for 50 years, and every senior who orders it is not ordering lunch. They are ordering 1967. Number 18. Beans on toast. A tin of beans heated in a small pot. A piece of toast. Beans poured over the top. 7 minutes, $1. This was the meal that came from Britain with the settlers and never left. In the Maritimes and Ontario, beans on toast was supper 2 or 3 nights a week for families who could not afford meat and did not apologize for it. For a senior living alone, it was the meal that asked the least and gave the most. Protein, fiber, warmth, and a full stomach, all from a tin and a toaster. Number 17. Canned salmon mixed with rice, leftover rice from yesterday, cold from the fridge. A tin of salmon, drained and flaked. A fork to mix them together. A splash of soy sauce. Eaten cold or heated in the microwave for 90 seconds. It takes 8 minutes if you count the time it takes to open the tin and find a clean fork. For a senior in British Columbia or the Maritimes, where canned salmon was a pantry staple, this was not a recipe. It was a reflex. The salmon was protein. The rice was filling. Together, they lasted 2 meals from a $1 tin and yesterday's leftovers. Number 16. Cheese and crackers with an apple. Block cheese sliced thick. Crackers from the sleeve. An apple cut into quarters. No cooking, no stove, no pot. Arranged on a plate or eaten out of hand while sitting in the chair by the television. This was the meal that seniors ate when they told their children they had eaten a proper dinner. It was not a proper dinner. It was what happened when the distance between the chair and the stove felt too far. But it was protein and carbohydrate and fruit, and it took 3 minutes to assemble, and for a person who almost ate nothing at all, it was enough. First pattern break. Here is the truth about 10-minute meals and seniors. The 10 minutes is not the cooking time. The 10 minutes is the window. It is the gap between the moment a senior thinks about eating and the moment they decide it is not worth the effort. Every minute past 10, the odds of that person skipping the meal go up. By 20 minutes, most of them have sat back down. By 30 minutes, the kitchen stays dark. These meals are not designed for speed because speed is trendy. They are designed for speed because speed is the difference between a senior eating tonight and a senior not eating tonight. That is what is at stake every time a person over 75 stands up from their chair and looks toward the kitchen. The question is not what is for dinner. The question is whether dinner happens at all. Number 15. Scrambled eggs with toast. 2 eggs are cracked into a bowl with a splash of milk and whisked with a fork. The mixture is poured into a buttered pan over medium heat and stirred slowly until it sets into soft curds. The eggs are slid onto a plate beside a piece of toast. 7 minutes. 60 cents. The eggs are protein, the toast is comfort, and the butter is the only seasoning the meal needs besides salt. For a senior who kept eggs and bread in the house, this was the meal that never failed, never disappointed, and never took longer than a quarter of a television commercial break. Number 14. Hot dog and a bun. A wiener boiled in a mug of water in the microwave for 90 seconds. A bun. Mustard. Ketchup. Eaten standing at the counter. This was not a meal anyone was proud of. It was the meal of last resort, the one that lived in the freezer for exactly this kind of night. A package of wieners cost $3 and contained 12. A bag of buns cost $2 and contained 8. That was 8 meals for 63 cents each. For a senior who had not eaten all day because the arthritis was bad and the weather was worse, a hot dog and a bun with mustard was a victory. Number 13. Canned chili heated in a pot. A tin of Stag or chunky chili heated on the stove for 5 minutes, eaten with crackers or bread or topped with a handful of shredded cheese. 1 tin, 1 pot, 1 bowl, 5 minutes. The chili was filling and spicy, and it sat in your stomach the way a meal was supposed to. A tin cost $2.50, and it was a complete meal that required nothing except heating. For a senior who could not chop vegetables, brown meat, or stand at the stove for 20 minutes, canned chili was the dignity of a hot meal without the labor of making one. Number 12. Quesadilla. A tortilla and shredded cheese folded in half and cooked in a dry pan for 2 minutes per side until the cheese melted and the outside crisped. Cut into triangles with a knife. 5 minutes total. A package of tortillas cost $3 and contained 10. A bag of shredded cheese cost $5 and lasted a week. That was 10 quesadillas for about 80 cents each. A senior with trembling hands could still lay a tortilla flat, scatter cheese, fold it, and press it in a pan. There was no chopping, no measuring, no timing, just heat and cheese, and the smell of something toasting in the kitchen. Number 11. Boiled egg and toast. An egg dropped into a pot of boiling water for 6 minutes. A piece of toast, buttered and cut in half. The egg cracked open, sprinkled with salt, and eaten with the toast. 8 minutes. 40 cents. This was the meal of the morning served at night. For a senior who had skipped breakfast and lunch and was eating the only meal of the day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a boiled egg and toast was all 3 meals compressed into one. The egg was breakfast, the toast was lunch, the salt was dinner. It was not enough. But it was something made from almost nothing in the time it takes to brew a pot of tea. Number 10. Soup from a packet with frozen vegetables. A packet of instant soup, the kind that costs 70 cents and comes with dried noodles and a sachet of powdered broth. Boil it in water for 3 minutes, tossing in a handful of frozen mixed vegetables. The frozen vegetables add nutrition and substance, and they turn a watery packet soup into something that actually fills a bowl. 8 minutes, under $1. A senior who kept a box of soup packets and a bag of frozen vegetables in the freezer had 20 meals waiting at all times. No planning, no thinking, no deciding. Just boil, pour, eat. Number 9. Avocado toast. Half an avocado mashed on toast with salt, pepper, and a squeeze of lemon. 4 minutes. This was not the restaurant version that costs $15 and comes with microgreens and a poached egg. This was the version a senior in Vancouver or Toronto made when the avocados were on sale at the grocery store for $1 each, and the bread was already on the counter. Half an avocado on toast was a complete meal. Healthy fat, Fiber. Carbohydrate. Eaten in 6 bites, standing at the counter, costing less than $1. Second pattern break. Here is a number. 30% of Canadian seniors living alone eat fewer than 2 meals a day. Not because they have forgotten to eat, not because they are not hungry, because the effort of cooking for one person 3 times a day feels pointless. The kitchen is too quiet. The portions are too small. The energy required to stand, prepare, cook, eat, and clean up exceeds the energy the meal provides. Every meal on this list takes less than 10 minutes, because 10 minutes is the maximum that a tired, grieving, arthritic person in an empty kitchen will give before sitting back down. This is not a cooking challenge. This is an intervention disguised as a countdown. Number 8. Microwave baked potato with cheese. 1 potato washed and pricked with a fork. Microwave for 5 minutes. Split open. Butter and shredded cheese pressed into the steaming flesh. Salt and pepper. 8 minutes total. A potato cost about 40 cents. The cheese and butter cost pennies per serving. For a senior who could not safely use an oven or stand long enough to cook on the stove, the microwave was the only appliance that mattered. A baked potato with cheese from the microwave was a hot meal that required no skill, no strength, and almost no attention. You put it in, you pressed the button, you waited. The microwave did the rest. Number 7. Tuna salad in a bowl. A tin of tuna drained and mixed in a bowl with mayonnaise, salt, and pepper, eaten with crackers on toast or straight from the bowl with a fork. 5 minutes, no cooking, no heat. A tin of tuna cost $1.50. The mayonnaise was already in the fridge. For a senior on a hot summer day when the stove felt unbearable and the kitchen was too warm, and the idea of heating anything made the evening feel worse, cold tuna salad was the meal that required nothing except opening a tin and stirring. Number 6. Fried rice from leftovers. You need leftover rice and egg, soy sauce, and whatever vegetables were in the fridge, diced small. Put everything into a hot pan for 5 minutes, scramble the egg through, and splash the soy sauce on at the end. This was the 10-minute meal that turned 3 days of leftovers into something that tasted like a fresh meal. Chinese Canadian grandmothers had been teaching this to their families for generations. The rice had to be cold from the fridge, so it fried instead of steaming. The egg held it together. The soy sauce made it taste like a kitchen that was still working. Number 5. Grilled cheese sandwich. 2 slices of bread, butter on the outside, a slice of cheese in the middle. 4 minutes in a hot pan, 2 minutes per side. The cheese melted. The bread turned golden. The butter crisped and browned. The first bite cracked, then went soft and warm and salty. This was the meal that every Canadian has made in the dark at midnight, at noon on a Tuesday, and at 5:30 on a winter evening, when the cupboard had nothing else to offer. For a senior living alone, a grilled cheese sandwich was not a snack. It was supper, and supper that takes 4 minutes and costs less than $1 is not a failure. It is a lifeline. Number 4. Bowl of cereal. Cold cereal in a bowl. Milk poured over, eaten at the kitchen table or on the couch or in the chair by the window. 2 minutes, 60 cents. This was the meal that seniors ate at 7 in the evening and never told their children about. Not because they were ashamed, because they knew their children would worry. Seniors who had spent their whole lives not being a burden would rather eat cereal for dinner than have someone drive across town to cook for them. A box of cereal lasted 2 weeks. A bag of milk lasted 4 days. Together they formed a safety net so thin it barely held, but it held. Every night it held. Number 3. Peanut butter on toast. A slice of toast. Peanut butter. That was dinner. 2 minutes. 30 cents. The peanut butter had protein and fat and calories, and it stuck to the roof of your mouth, and made you drink a glass of water, which meant you were eating and drinking. And that was more than you had done for the past 6 hours. For a senior who had not eaten since breakfast, peanut butter on toast at 6 o'clock was the minimum viable meal, not the minimum recommended meal. The minimum that a person would actually make when the energy was gone and the kitchen was cold, and the question of why bother had no good answer, except that the bread was right there and the peanut butter was right there, and 30 seconds was not too much to ask. Number 2, canned soup straight from the tin, heated in the microwave, not even in a pot. A tin of soup opened, poured into a mug, and microwaved for 2 minutes, eaten from the mug with a spoon, sitting in the chair. This was the meal that required no pot, no stove, no plate, and almost no washing up. A mug, a spoon, and 2 minutes. For a senior whose hands could not grip a pot, whose legs could not stand at a stove, whose kitchen had become a room they walked through on the way to the bathroom, soup in a mug from the microwave was the difference between eating and not eating. And that difference, on a dark Tuesday in January, is the difference between staying in your home and someone deciding you cannot manage anymore. Number 1, toast and tea, a slice of bread, a cup of tea, butter if there was butter, eaten at the kitchen table in the quiet. This was the meal that happens most often and is spoken about least. Seniors across this country eat toast and tea for supper more nights than anyone will ever count. Not because they want to, because the day used up everything they had, and toast and tea is what remains when everything else has been subtracted. It takes 3 minutes. It costs 20 cents. It is not enough. Everyone knows it is not enough. But it is warm, and it is something, and it means the kitchen was used today, and the table was sat at today, and the day did not end without a person feeding themselves, however small the feeding was. Nobody celebrates toast and tea, but it is the most important meal on this list because it is the one that keeps people in their homes, the one that keeps them independent, the one that keeps them alive one more day. And one more day for a senior living alone is the only victory that matters. Here's my challenge. Call someone who lives alone, a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor. Do not ask what they had for dinner. Ask if they had dinner. The meals on this list are not nostalgic. They are not historical. They are happening right now, tonight, in kitchens and apartments across this country. The people making them are not asking for a recipe. They are asking for someone to notice. Share which one you recognize in the comments. I want to know if anyone else's mother eats toast and tea for supper and tells you she had a proper meal. These are not just dinners. They are the smallest acts of survival this country produces, and the people performing them deserve more than they are getting.